Hi, thank you for contacting the Jacobitz Learning Channel. We certify people pre-K through 5. We do 6 through 12 um, in English and math, and we do 5 through 9 in all areas. And then we do Spanish, foreign language to help you. And so we're going to start here with math, grades 5 through 9. These are actual questions. So if you look at this and you go to FTCE and you go to their contractor website, you will actually see this question on one of your sample questions. So let's go over it. If you don't need it because you already have a very good background in math, that's okay. We just wanted to go over why. We have people who sometimes have know the math but don't know how to deal with how it's worded. And then we just need some people, we meet some people who just need a review. So with that, we'll start sample question 1. John knows that he can mow a rectangular lawn that measures 20 yards by 40 yards in 2 hours. He estimates that it should take him about 4 hours to mow a rectangular lawn that measures 40 yards by 80 yards. Is John's estimate reasonable? So when we move on, we look at how the quickest way we can solve this. For those of you who are math teachers, you know that 20 by 40 is already going to give you, that's 2 times 4, and just add 2 more zeros. That's going to give you 800. Okay, he estimates that it should take him about 2 hours in that time period. So it's right here in the example, 20 by 40, and you have 2 hours. You can do 2 hours times 60 minutes if you want, change it into 120, but we're going to keep everything simple here. Okay, now the next part of the question that you're doing, because you're comparing, is you have 20 yards by 40 yards. It's being compared to 40 yards by 80 yards. And by the way, those of you who do construction, who teach this as math problems, you know good and well that this is a construction problem, and when you're getting ready to do certain things, 20 by 40 is how you measure. Okay? Then you have 40 by 80 yards at unknown hours. So technically, you know that 4 times 8 is 320, but you have 2 extra zeros, so it's 3,200. 4 times 3 is 32. So you'd have 32 here, and then you'd add, I'm sorry, I said that right. Then you add in the next 2 zeros, okay? But we're doing it slide by slide. And you have X as your unknown hours because it tells you. He estimates that it would take him. If he's estimating, he doesn't know for sure. So we put our X here. Okay? But these questions here go from step to step, and we wanted to make sure that when we're doing our ratios, we keep everything together. So like if you're doing 20 by 40 yards up top, you have to do 40 by 80 over here. Okay? By your unknown, because that's the amount of time that wasn't given to you. So here it is set up, and you have this here, and I'm sorry, you have this set up here, 3,200. So then we go over here and we go ahead and we do the math, and when we cross multiply, we have this, which is 32 times 2 is going to give you 64 plus the 2 zeros here. So we have 64, you have 800 over 800x divided by 800, and then 6,400 divided by 8. Just cross out your 2 zeros here, and you know that this is 64 divided by 8, which is going to give you 8. So when we get ready to answer the question, it says, was John's estimate reasonable? Yes, because doubling the size of the field will double the amount of mowing time. Well, the amount of mowing time doubled would be 4 hours. Okay, but we have 8 hours. So this is 4 hours here, and I'm going to go on ahead and make it like this, hour. Okay, but this is 8 hours here, so it's not doubled. So we knock out A. No, because John will be able to mow a longer distance without changing direction, resulting in shorter mowing time. Excuse me? How can you take more distance and do a shorter mowing time? Okay, no, that's out of scope. Cross that. C, yes, because the perimeter of the field is doubled. The distance that the mower will need to travel is doubled. Is it doubled? It's 4 times. So they're just trying to see if you really can read through what's going on to make sure that you can explain this to your students. Okay, so the only other answer it really left out on now would be D, and of course D is the correct answer. And let's go over no, because doubling the dimensions of the field will increase the area of the field by 4 times, resulting in a mowing time of 8 hours. They kind of give it to you. If you wanted to, you could also set this problem up and you could put in the 4 hours here and multiply up if you thought, but if you thought you could work it that way, but that's also going to take you more time. So it's better to just, if you're rationalizing what's happening, it's better to just do it this way. These questions are from the Florida Teacher Certification Exam, but again, they're good questions for anyone who wants to go over ratios. All right, let's go over sample question 2. A teacher is going to develop the concept of squaring a binomial expression. Which of the following models would be the most appropriate to use? For those of you who are taking you took elementary ed and you think, hey, I'm going to a private school or I'm going to a charter school and I have to now do 5 and 6. Or if they're getting ready to do something else and you're thinking I need the certification for 6 through 7 in case they're going to switch me into 3 grades. You know what binomial is because you teach it to the children, so you know it means 2. But what does it mean in Algebra 1? It means the sum or the difference of 2 or more different terms. And this is where the children get confused. They'll go, this is A and B plus, these are 2 terms. Well, actually, this is 1 term, this is 3, this is 4. And if you were to multiply them together, if you were to do an area, you get 12 plus 12, and you just get a regular term. But when they put all this together, a lot of students will say, well, that's 2 terms. Well, they mean 2 terms in terms of A squared plus B equals 0. And this term kind of isn't going to get it unless you go A squared equals Y. It's not going to be quite binomial. Same thing here. This is the product. So you would go 12 because A has to be the same as A over here. So if we put A as 3 and we put B as 4, you'd be doing 12 times 12, which is 144. And you would get you get your numbers, but they're not really binomial set up as equations. So this kind of should stick up at you right at the same moment. You should already be looking at C because this is set up as a matrix, like A plus B would be 2, or let's keep the numbers the same. Let's keep them at 3 and 4. So let's keep them at 3 plus 4 is 7 times A would be 3, which would be 21. 7 times 4 would be 28. And you're kind of writing a matrix here. So you're already doing 3 terms. A plus B will come off like this. A plus B times A plus B. And so there's your binomial. And that's why your answer is C. Okay, here you have 2 terms that are the same. This is more like an A, B times AB, same thing, plus B. A lot of people want to jump at D and say, well, that could be B squared, but actually it's not. That's a rectangle. So that's like your regular area, which is B times B. So they're just trying to get you to look at shapes and trying to make sure you know exactly what's going on there. Okay, 8, let's go into this. This is more of just a simple answering question. And let me tell you where it gets difficult. Most people jump out and want to go here because we're always thinking about student achievement. How hard are their grades? How many of them pass? So then they say, well, we have to make sure a certain amount pass so we get our schools rated a certain way. But so your mind is automatically thinking this, but then according to the teacher education manual, everything that you do for students has to be made for instructional decisions, because you're going to do what? You're going to think about what's best for each student. So when it says identify the primary goal of a formative assessment, okay, and this is primary goals, ranking of students. That's something guidance does when you get ready to see who's in the top 10 of the class. Also, who passed, who didn't. That's more of like a principal's role leadership guidance decision. And that can also be, I'm going to put PR for principal's role. I'll put LR too. LR and PR. Okay, evaluating teachers. Your primary goal of formative assessment, that a formative assessment is what a teacher gives, should not be to evaluate the teachers. Teacher, you can't look at what test she gave and say, hey, she's good because she gave all these questions. You have to look at how the teacher interacts with the students. Okay, measuring student achievement, again, secondary goal, you need to determine how to teach each student so they're a C sticking at you. Okay, question number 9. Anybody who has taught math knows that this is for an area. 2 length plus 2 width is what this is really saying. So when you read this, you say a student wants to purchase a wallpaper border for a bedroom. The border is sold in rolls of 8 yards long by 10 inches wide. The room measures 12 feet by 13 feet. By performing the following operations, the student determines that 6 rolls of border are needed. Which statement best explains the student's mathematical error? And here it's assuming that the person made a mathematical error. If you go and do this math, 2 times 13 is 26. And 2 times 20, 12. Times 2, sorry about that trail, is 24. And so you have 24 and 26 is what? 26 plus 24 is going to be 50. And then you're going to divide 50 by 8. Do your math, put it on a calculator. Your answer is 625. Did the student use a perimeter problem? No. He used area. D's out. Student found the perimeter instead of the area. That's wrong. Perimeter would be 13 plus 12 plus 13 plus 12. Or it would be 13. Perimeter, he'd go 13, or he or she would go 13 plus 12, and then they take it around 4 times. No, this is getting confused here. Okay, so it's not a perimeter. This is area. Okay, the student rounded incorrectly and thought those 6 rolls were needed. He rounded correctly, or she rounded correctly, whoever did it. So your answer is C. They didn't keep the units the same. What's going on here? They needed 8 yards by 10. Because if you have 13 plus, or you could also do 2 times 8 plus 10. Okay, so answer is C. Last one. a function, for those of you who teach, you recognize this automatically because you know that functions are always written a certain way, and usually they're written with x squared equals y. So which of the following rules represents a function? Function can only have one output for each input, and so we know when we do parabolas, we can have a function, really popular for quadratics, we can have negative value, -1, you can have 0, you can have 1. In this situation, you'd still have x squared as 1, you'd still have 0, still have 1, but see, you'd have a -1 on this side going here. You'd have this and that another here, so you want that. So your absolute value is out, that's C, because this parabola represents that. You have a x squared equals y squared. You get into problems if you want to do 2 and 2, because then your 2 squared would be 4. So that would be the value of y. So how can 2 squared equal 4 squared? See, it can't, because 4 squared is 16. So that's out. Can't happen. So let's scratch out A. So y squared equals the value of x. Again, y squared here would be 2 squared, which would be 4, which means that y would equal 4. That can't happen. So your only other choice is B. If you have any questions, we're at jacobitslearning@gmail.com. Thank you for watching.